Hello, hello, hello. In this video, I'm specifically going to talk about how to strategically maneuver your MCAT problem, um, which is passage-based. So you don't waste your time and you know exactly what to do when you see a passage-based problem on MCAT. So the first advice for that type of a problem is you don't want to get bogged down into the details of the passage, meaning you don't really want to get into the depth of what these molecules are biologically doing in the system, because if it's an organic chemistry passage, they're not going to ask you questions on the biology of the compound. It's mostly specifically going to be testing you on your organic chemistry knowledge, right? So when you read the passage, you don't really have to like try to run your brain into, oh, how, why, what pH, why is that, what's happening, and why that's happening. That's not necessary. You want to save your time on your MCAT, right? So just skim over the passage really, really quickly, right? And that's one thing. And the second thing that you should pay very close attention to is the figures on your question. So the more important um, information for an organic chemistry passage is going to be the images that they're going to show you as figures, or any kind of experimental data like IR, NMR is very important, right? And any kind of experimental scheme, reaction scheme, any mechanistic data that is provided to you, that is more important to pay close attention to, and not the paragraph. Again, I'm mentioning that again and again. This is not English comprehension test. All right, so now let's think about what type of problems are actually going to be on the passage type of problems. So the passage type of questions or problems are mostly going to cover mostly a multi-synthetic route where you're expected to predict the product of a reaction, okay? And or it can ask you a normal one-step process, but then they're going to ask you a tricky question where the product is unexpected, something that you don't generally see, or kind of an anomaly of the reaction. But well, obviously it's part of the syllabus, something that you've already learned, but the answer is going to be a slightly different answer than expected, and that's why it's there on the MCAT. And the second type of problem is going to be a biologically active molecule. They're going to give you a biologically active molecule, but then they're expecting you to kind of analyze it using the laboratory techniques, NMR, IR. But they're not going to test you on any of this biology stuff. So don't get bogged down in the details. And or they can give you molecules, they can give you details of biological molecules, and they can ask you, hey, can you differentiate these molecules, or can you figure out the relationship between these two molecules, okay? And then the third type of problem would test you on the mechanistic understanding of reactions, which is an important part of organic chemistry, right? So they're going to test you on that. So you have to know if this is SN1 or SN2, and what type of products you form on SN1 and SN2. And again, intermediates are a very important part of reaction mechanism. So they can ask you questions. They can test you on that also in the main passage type of problem. So these are mostly the three types of questions that they will test you on in your passage-based problems. And the third thing that I want to say before we close off for this video is that how to organize your scratch pad. Okay, so this is important. You want to keep your information on the scratch pad as organized as you can. So which would include writing the question number. So labeling your information on the scratch pad. So when you come back to that problem, you should be able to see that information. And two, there is any kind of information related to the scheme or the passage, you want to put it down on your scratch pad. For example, if the reaction path or the reaction is telling you this is SN1 or SN2, right? And then the next question is based on, oh, what would be the stereochemistry of the product? So you have to know whether this is SN1 or SN2. That will tell you, that will help you figure out your next problem. So you want to write that kind of information that you take some time to figure out. So have that information ready on the scratch pad so you can use that to solve the next problems. Okay. And lastly, if you have any kind of information that is important, necessary from the passage, as soon as you read the passage, if you think there's an important information, have that under that question when you have labeled that question, right? So that is important to keep your scratch pad organized so you can then use that to answer your questions and refer to them whenever you want to come back to your scratch pad. And these were all of my advice for solving a passage type of problems. And I will see you in the next video.